Welcome along to the RTÉ Soccer Podcast. Raf Diallo here. You can watch or listen in every week on RTÉ.ie, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, and subscribe to get the latest episodes as they go live. This week, it's the first international break since the end of Stephen Kenny's tenure. There has been what can only be described as months of managerial whack-a-mole as we wait to find out who the next senior men's manager will be. But the mallets have been put away with early April when all will be revealed. In the meantime, John O'Shea will be leading Ireland for this Saturday's friendly against Belgium and next Tuesday versus Switzerland. So to build up to that and also chat League of Ireland, the Champions League quarter-final draw, I'm joined by ex-Ireland international Keith Treacy and former League of Ireland and FAI Cup winner Conan Byrne. Hope you're both keeping well on this bank holiday Monday.
Yeah, oh, good, Raf, yeah.
Now, John O'Shea, as we said, has named a squad for these two friendlies, and it's a 26-man squad. It was revealed last Thursday, and the headline figures being Sammy Smodics, who has been in the squad before, but likely to get capped across these two games. Jake O'Brien, who is really, playing brilliantly at Lyon at the moment, scored a great headed winner against Toulouse as well. Big fella as well in terms of his size too, and then Finn Azaz, and then also Joe Hodge and Andrew Moran are with the 21s for the game against San Marino, but will get called up. And Keith, overall, your view on the squad? I suppose we're at a point in terms of the development of the overall wider squad. There aren't a lot of players likely to be left out anyway, but for the most part, I think all the likely names are there.
Yeah, there's one or two, as you said, with Jake O'Brien coming in. There's one or two little surprises, but nothing that. With them being friendlies, Raf, there's nothing that you're thinking, geez, that's a big surprise. The Smodics one is the one that really gets me excited when you think of how well Benny has been doing in a Luton short, and then Mikey Johnson all of a sudden doing really well at West Brom, scoring a couple of goals, and we all know Evan up front has a little bit about him. So if we can get, I'm sort of flirting with a 4-2-3-1 in my head. So the 3 and the 1 would be Smodics in behind, Evan Ferguson with Benny on the right, and Mikey Johnson on the left. And that front four does excite you. But then you're thinking we've only got 2 holding midfield players. And I know it's only 2, but 4 at the back and 2 in front of them. I think we need a little bit more solidity. I know Stephen Kenny played 5 for a long time and it came under the spotlight. But I look at the midfield players, Raf, and you look at Cullen, Smallbone, Knight, McGrath, O'Dowd, Sykes and Aziz. They're fairly novice players, and if you're playing centre half right and left back and right back, and you want to be a possession based team, you don't want to be firing balls into those players because they're talented players. They do have bits about them, but probably not players that you would trust on the ball. They're coming into international football. The Belgians are a very good team, one of the best in Europe. And people think the Switzerland team, they think, Shaqiri and Xhaka, they're not quite as good as people think they are. The Swiss are a very good team, very decent team, very difficult to beat. So I think we might get a couple of new caps on the pitch. I think Jake O'Brien might get a couple of minutes just because they're friendlies. And this day and age, you don't get many international friendlies. So I think we might blood 1 or 2. But the one for me is we need to get Smodics on the pitch. I want to get him capped. I want to have him tied down. And I know Hungary have sort of killed their jets on his side anyway. So it looks like he will be playing for us. And 21 goals in the championship, Rafa, at a struggling Blackburn. If you took his goals out of that Blackburn team, they would really be struggling. So it does excite me. But again, the midfield players worry me. The talent and imagination, flair, whatever word you want to put on the midfield, that really does worry me. But when you look at the Robbie Brady coming back in, I think is a decent one because we are struggling for a left back at the minute. So Robbie can do little things at left back, and his set pieces will be a big part of the game. And people always say to me, you talk about Ireland and set pieces. Set pieces are a big part of every game. Premier League games, Manchester United, Liverpool, they're always big games. So never, ever neglect the set pieces. You can win or lose a game on set pieces alone. So, yeah, I think if we can keep clean sheets with the defensive lads we had, I think we can keep clean sheets. Now we're just going to say, let's keep it tight, keep it horrible, give them nothing for free, and we can do things up the top of the pitch. So we just need to start playing in the right areas, and everything that John has been saying about how he thinks he's going to go about it, it's getting me interested, Raf. I'm really interested to go to the Aviva on Saturday and see how we do against Belgium.
Yeah, and Conan, just on the makeup of that midfield, there was actually something Gavin Cooney was writing about in the 42.ie over the weekend, and it was in and around the lack of a natural number six. Keith has just touched on it there, and you know, you look at the names that are in there, a lot of them are more number eights. Josh Cullen aside, he's probably the more natural six, but Smallbone tends to be more comfortable a bit further forward. Knight as well is a bit box to box. Jamie McGrath, Mark Sykes as well if he's playing more centrally, and then Finn Azaz, the newcomer as well. Is that a bit of an area of concern going forward? And I mean, there's not something that can be really fixed in one friendly window. That's development of players and seeing new lads come through.
Yeah, Keith's touched on it already, the midfield area, Raf. The majority of players that are playing in that have been selected for midfield from the squad are all championship players, apart from obviously Josh Cullen and Jamie McGrath, who's playing Premier League at Aberdeen. So, yeah, it's an area we're going to struggle in over the next 12, 18 months because we don't have the players at the top level in the Premier League playing in that position, Josh Cullen aside. So I think you mentioned box to box Jason Knight. I think you need somebody in there with legs. And I think, look, I don't know. I'm thinking John O'Shea will probably do what Stephen Kenny is doing and go three at the back and put the wing backs in. Because our defensive area is very strong. We have players I think every player that he selected in the defensive, in the squad defensively play at top level apart from Robbie Brady. But we need that, as Keith said, we need the Robbie Brady down that left-hand side because Doherty will probably play there. But we're strong defensively. I think we're very interesting in attack. Given Schmodix now has come in, I'm looking forward to seeing nailing him down. Interested to see if he'll take up the international level, the speed of international level, considering he's playing a championship at the moment. That's something that I'm very interested in. But like Keith said, the goals he scored in the championship for a team that are 17th in the championship, it'll be interesting to see how he gets on. But it's the midfield area that I'd really be worried about. And I think he'll play Cullen and Knight close together, with Knight with the legs. And then Ogbene and Schmodix probably in front of them in a kind of box midfield. But that's just something that I'd probably do just to keep it tight in that middle section. But then you have the pace and power up front then with Evan Ferguson to cause damage on the counter-attack. So it's going to be very interesting. The goalkeeping situation is going to be who's he going to choose in terms of Kelleher and Bazunu. Bazunu haven't played 36 games in the championship, doing really, really, really well with Southampton. And then Kelleher coming in over the last month and again, in a team that are struggling in terms of injuries, and he's done really well. So he'll probably go for Kelleher, I'd say.
Yeah, for that first game, and then probably Bazunu for the second. But he was speaking at last week's press conference, and Ed Leahy, my colleague here at RTÉ Sport, put a couple of questions to him. First about Smodix, and then the possible tactics.
Just from Sammy's perspective, what sort of players do you think he thinks up best with? Is it speed players around him, or is it bringing other like-minded players into
Yeah, look, from what I've noticed in terms of watching Sammy over the last couple of seasons in particular, in the championship, it's his absolute, obviously every level he's gone to, he seems to have obviously responded to it, been able to cope with it no problem, and been an important player, and he's just grown and had that maturity now in his game, and I think he's versatile in that sense too. It won't be a problem to him whatever player he's maybe picked alongside, or if he is, that he can cope with that. He'll bring an intelligence to his game that he's obviously developed over the last few years, and that whether it be false positions, he drifts in off the left, drifts in off the right, he can cope with any type of strike partner, or a front four combination, or front three, whatever it might be. So he's very flexible in that, and look, it's good that you have a player coming in scoring 27 goals, 21 in the league. You know, it's very important.
Just in terms of your defensive unit, and you obviously come up from the defensive side of things, obviously trying to read a bit into what the squad you've picked, and I know a lot of players are versatile, but sort of two full-backs on each side. Would it be fair to say you might favour a forward back?
No, well, look, it's a good option. Yeah, it's a very good option, but we also have plenty of centre-backs in the squad too, and whatever shape or formation we come up with, it'll be very flexible, even in terms of whether you're building you could have a back four, but you're building up in possession in a three at the back. We can float back into whether we have three at the back, the midfielders dropping in to help out. There's lots of flexibility in the squad, and that's key for us. Because look, the challenges we're going to face against Belgium and Switzerland, they're obviously really getting close to planning and prepping for a European Championships too. So we know we'll be facing real tough competition, but one we're excited about.
I think, as you said there, Conan, just from what John O'Shea said there, the back three is something that will probably live on into the next era. But just before we turn very quickly to the 21s, just on the newcomers, Finn Azaz, Keith, what can people expect from him? I think we saw him briefly capped for the under-21s a couple of years ago in the playoff against Israel, that ended with a penalty shootout defeat, and he is now at Middlesbrough at the moment, having had a good time of it with Plymouth.
Yeah, he done really well at Plymouth. Obviously, Plymouth have started to climb the leagues, and he done really, really well and got his move. And look, it's difficult to say, Raf, because as Conan has just said with Smodics has probably proved himself a lot more than a lot of the other players in the Irish squad. And you're still not sure about Smodics being able to hit the ground running, because international level, in terms of championship level, even some players in the Premier League will struggle to make that jump into international football. So what can we expect? I'm not too sure. I think, like I said, I think Jake O'Brien might get a couple of minutes. Azaz might get a couple of minutes, just as a little bit of a pat on the back. Well done, lads. Keep going. But in terms of if this was, a proper qualifier or a big game, I don't think the lads have been in the squad. But they're progressing. They're doing really, really well. And it's something that, so often over the last 18 months, 2 years, there's Andrew Moore and Evan Ferguson, Aaron Connolly, Troy Parrott. These lads have done well, and we've thrown them straight in, and we've gone, go and be the hero for us. And we put way too much pressure on them. We really, really have. And people are saying to me now, but Evan Ferguson hasn't scored in so many goals, Keith. I'm thinking, Evan Ferguson's a million miles ahead of the curve. He's a million miles of where he should be now. He's not playing in a struggling team. He's playing in a very, very strong Brighton team. He doesn't score goals every week, but he scored a handful of goals in the Premier League already. That's ahead of the curve for his age, and he's getting better with every single game. So I wouldn't be wanting to put too much pressure on lads. Just go out there, get a feel for it, try and feel comfortable, and just put building blocks in place to get into the Irish team. Learn from the lads around you. There'll be caps. Seamus Coleman's in there, Robbie Brady. So many caps of people you can learn from. So from their point of view, I'd be thinking just go in there, train well, get used to the surroundings, and put the building blocks in place to become an international player. You might get a cap, and this could be the start of something very, very special for a few of the lads. And the one thing I always try and remember is, when you're a young lad playing on the street back in the day, you always wanted to play for your country, and just have that little bit of pride walking into the dressing room, because all the hard work, all the fighting, moving over to England, making all those sacrifices, this is all what it's for. So just have that little bit of clarity, that little moment to think this is what it's all about. Go and do your training, soak it all in, and know that there'll be bigger and better things to come for the lads that have just dipping into the international scene now.
Yeah, and Jake O'Brien kind of has taken the path less travelled as well. Now he's gone from starting out in the League of Ireland here, and then a bit of time at Crystal Palace, and then now he's getting his rewards, Conan, in France with Lyon, scored at the weekend. I think the one benefit, especially with Shane Duffy out injured at the moment, and also probably coming towards the latter end of his career, you look at the size of Jake O'Brien, 6'6", powerful as well, really, really strong on set pieces, and obviously can do the defensive side.
Yeah, and he was alongside Dejan Lovren up until around Christmas time, and he would have learned a lot from him. I know a lot of people mightn't think that as Lovren's a good defender, but he's done it all. He's been it's a great player to play alongside and to learn from in those in Ligue 1 when you are really struggling, because Lyon were. They've won I think they've won 13 out of their last 16 games, so they're on the up. He's built a lot of resilience from that early part of his time at Lyon when they were getting beaten and the fans weren't happy with certain performances, but Jake O'Brien stood out above the rest of them. He's managed to keep his place when new managers come in. 4 goals this season, like you said, a great headed winner against Toulouse on Friday night, and 4 goals. So absolutely earns his right to be in the squad. Don't think he'll start the game. The games, but I do think he'll get some minutes. I think it's important that he gets some minutes as a reward for what he has done. But O'Brien will certainly get some minutes, and he fully deserves them. He's been magnificent for Lyon.
Yeah, and Ryan Manning left out of the squad for the moment, but he is being monitored, so there's a possibility he'll be involved in the Switzerland game. Now, of the 21s, now we've live coverage of that game against San Marino on the RT News channel and RT Player at 4:55 p.m. on Friday. And Conan, I mean, looking through the squad there, I know Andrew Moore and Joe Hodge will link up with the seniors later, but you look overall, it's a really strong party, and it's a really strong squad that Jim Crawford has built there.
Yeah, absolutely. And they started it really well, Raf. 1 point behind Italy after that, I suppose, heartbreaking draw to them at Turner's Cross back in November. And I suppose this game is all about being as professional as possible. They don't have their next game is in September, I think, against Turkey. Competitive game. So it's important that they are professional, get the 3 points. But like you said, talent all over the pitch. Sinclair Armstrong still going strong. QPR probably will start in attack. But Lowell, and that is doing so well at Fleetwood on loan from Celtic. He's nearly talk about him getting a cap at senior level, but like we said, we want to be having players at Premier League and Championship. But he's going to be a player that's going to be getting a senior international appearance at some stage, in my opinion. And then Joe Hodge and Andy Moran as well. That Andy Moran has kind of dipped in form a little bit at Blackburn over the last couple of weeks. But Joe Hodge doing really well at QPR, and two absolute quality players that we were talking about. A number 6 there that could play at senior level, and Joe Hodge would be the one that you're probably thinking that could make the breakthrough over the next couple of years. Needs to play at a higher level, but is excellent at what he does. So really interested to see how the new recruits at under 21 level do. I don't think Andrew Wogan will get a game, but again, like Keith said, just to get in around that setup, see what it's like. Alex Murphy doing great things at Newcastle, Mark O'Mahony at Brighton as well. So yeah, there's Callum Kavanagh, of course, at Bradford. So there's a few potential new caps there at under 21 level. But it's all about being professional and getting 3 points against San Marino for sure.
Yeah, and as I said, we'll have that game on Friday on the RT News channel and RT Player. But in the League of Ireland, Bows with and their first game since parting ways with Declan Devine beat Derry City 2-1. Dale Rooney opened the score, and then James Akintunde doubling it before Ronan Boyce scored from outside the box a couple of minutes after that. Dundalk and Waterford shared the points, 0-0 draw up at Oriel Park, and then Johnny Kenny late on for Shamrock Rovers got them their first win of the season, 1-0 away at Galway United. That was the TV game. And then St. Pat's were defeated at home by Shelbourne. Will Jarvis scoring 2 quality goals in that game. Jake Mulroney pulling one back for Pats, but it was a little bit too late. And then Sligo Rovers on Saturday night beat Drogheda United 3-1 with Max Mata scoring a couple of goals early on. And then also the highlight was Waweru's backheeled finish as well, which was quite a neat one. But let's start on Galway and Shamrock Rovers, just the takeaway from that. And first, Stephen Bradley was speaking to Tony O'Donoghue after the game.
Stephen, congratulations, first win of the season. It was a long time coming, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, I know this group, and we've been good for large spells in the games we've played, and we just had to relax and keep trusting it, and they were brilliant tonight. We could have scored a lot more goals, and I thought they were very good. A
lot of possession tonight, but I suppose in the final third was letting you down. Then you made a substitution, Johnny on the spot, as they say about Johnny Kenny.
Yeah, look, sometimes you make subs, they don't come off, sometimes they do. I've got lucky tonight, but I think in general our play was good. We had really good chances to score. To be fair to God, we defended really well, but on another night we scored 2 or 3.
So the first win of the season, do you think that'll take pressure off?
There's no pressure in this, Tony. I've seen real pressure in real life. This is a joy. What we do is a joy to represent this club and try and win games and win trophies is a pleasure. It's not a pressure.
Well done.
Thank you.
Stephen Bradley there speaking to Tony O'Donoghue after Shamrock Rovers got their first win of the season. And Keith, I mean, it wasn't the best quality game overall, but when you can call upon the likes of Johnny Kenny and spring him from the bench and you have that level of depth, eventually you will start getting your rewards.
Yeah, it's so hard, you know, because a couple of clubs have been slow off the mark, St. Pat's, Dundalk, Rovers, and people are talking about Pats, they talk about Dundalk, but nobody really talks about Rovers' slow start. I think it's because it took them 7 games last year to get their first win. And if you're a player in the dressing room and you're thinking, oh, we haven't really had a 90-minute performance yet, as Stephen Bradley says there, they've had some decent moments within games, but in terms of a 90-minute performance, hasn't really been good enough. But going to Galway, you're thinking this isn't going to be pretty. There's going to be balls getting thrown into the box left, right and centre. We'll have to defend really, really well. And I think Stephen Bradley would have just said, listen, if we can win this game, the performance is secondary at this point now. So to go on and win the game, I think it'd be great. I know Pats have already beaten Galway in Galway, but I don't see a lot of people turning Galway over down there, or if they do, they won't do it easily anyway, because they have a very simple plan, Galway. They get the ball out wide, they defend well, and they put balls into the box, and they make you defend. So to have 72% of the ball against Galway, I think is what, it's probably about par. Galway don't mind. They're fairly comfortable not having the ball. They're a really well-drilled team out of possession. But again, Galway will be a tough place to go. Again, Stephen Bradley will just be reiterating 90 minutes. We need a 90-minute performance, because we've had bits and bobs. And look, the Shamrock Rovers squad is just so good that it's so hard to ever really think they're going to be in trouble. And slow start, but Raf, I start looking down the line. I think who's going to really give us this race? Derry got beat on the week. Pats are stuttering as well. Who's going to be the ones to really go and take this title race? And I'm not too sure. I really don't. I think everybody's going to beat everybody, and Shamrock Rovers will just do enough. Again, when we come out of Europe, I think somebody's going to need a buffer between them and Shamrock Rovers, because we all know in and around that time is when Shamrock Rovers will hit the accelerator. But yeah, to keep it to the Galway game, I think Stephen Bradley will be happy just with the win, not so much the performance. But there's more to come, a lot more to come from that Shamrock Rovers team. So although panic may set in one or two other clubs, when you hear Stephen Bradley saying, we know what we have, there's no pressure here, pressure is a privilege, these are the things you want to hear, and he's not panicking whatsoever. And he was exactly the same last year when they were struggling to get their first win. When that sort of, I wouldn't call it confidence, but just that assurance that, don't worry lads, this will click, we have all the talent, we're well drilled, and they've got the win now, and I expect them to kick on and be an awful lot better, because I done one of the games for Virgin a couple of weeks ago when they weren't great. They huffed and puffed in the game, but largely as a 90-minute performance, it wasn't what we've come to expect from the champions. So they will get better and they will get stronger. So I think the rest of the league better beware.
Yeah, and then particularly energetic performances in the Galway team. Dervin particularly stood out on that right hand side as well. But in the end, there was no end product, obviously, from Galway. But I think, as has been said on this podcast a couple of times, they're definitely going to be fine. I suppose on the flip side, Conan, it's a double blow for Derry City. I mean, they lose up at Bows, but then at the same time, they're watching Shamrock Rovers, who they would have liked to put kept a little bit of distance in front of, winning their first game. And it was a sloppy enough performance, even when you look at the goals as well, like that Sam Todd back pass that Dale Rooney latches onto, and then the set piece as well. I'd say Rory Higgins would be sort of pulling his hair out at the moment.
Yeah, it was awful defending for both goals. I think there was no danger in that first one at all, and Sam Todd used the outside of his left foot to try and pass it back to the goalkeeper, when it's probably the hardest thing he could have done with the ball at his feet. And then with the second goal, the way it gets into the 6-yard box, because the cross by Dale Rooney wasn't great. I know some Bows player came out, did a little dummy, might have got a tiny little deflection on it, brought into the 6-yard box, and that Contunde strokes it home. Rory Higgins will be very disappointed. But look, they suffered from a rejuvenated team that's after a manager sack, and we've seen it plenty of times before, that bounce back ability from teams when the manager goes. Derek Pender goes into the dugout. Pat Fennan as well has been in the mix as well. And Derek is Bows through and through. You'd run through a big brick wall from him. I know when playing against him as a player, he was scary. So I can only imagine what he would be as a manager in that dressing room, and what you'd put your heart and soul into it. Not that they were not doing it for Decky, but just it's different when you have Derek Pender there, a player that has played so many games for Bohemians and been around the team, captained the team. But I think the one thing to take out of the game was it was great to see James Talbot back on the bench. Raf gone through a couple of difficult months for him, and to see him back out smiling was the moment of the weekend for me, if I'm being completely honest. Great to see him back on the bench. But I do think with Derry, they'll be disappointed with some of the chances that they created in the game. Daniel Kelly had missed a wonderful opportunity in the first half, and in the second half as well, it was through 1-on-1, and keeper made a very, very good save. But just with Derry suffering their first defeat of the season, they'd be disappointed because they would have been going down to Dalymount Park expecting to win that game, and coming away from it with the goals they conceded, really be very disappointed.
Yeah, what's your take on the Bows managerial situation in terms of who comes next? Because obviously a lot of names have been in the mix. I know Stephen Kenny's name was being thrown in, but that doesn't seem very likely. And I think last week, as we spoke about, Alan Reynolds is one who's been talked about. I know Richard Dunn would have applied sometime previously, the last time there was a vacancy. So where are you sort of at in terms of either what you're hearing or what you think where the club should be sort of going in terms of the next name?
Yeah, the Stephen Kenny one would have disappointed me from a Stephen Kenny perspective, because after managing in the Ireland international team, I'm sure he'll want to I don't know, to go out into Europe and maybe go at another international level or a big European team. So to come back into the League of Ireland with Bows, it'd be very difficult to go then on and do that again and go into Europe and manage international teams again. But so that idea never kind of. I never thought that was going to happen. Stephen is an ambitious man. He'll want to succeed at the very highest level. He's already said that the Ireland job is the pinnacle of his career. But that's not to say that he doesn't want his next job to be very good. And with the Ireland job and what he did in terms of trying to create that possession-based game, that might attract some club owners into giving him a chance. So I could never see him getting wanting the Bows job. With Alan Reynolds, I think the under-21 setup is the stickler. He loves that role that he has there. The number 2, he seems to enjoy that as well. I don't know whether it's just not having the pressure of being a manager or what it is, but Alan is a very good coach, and that's what he'd miss if he was a manager. He wouldn't have that coaching time that he'd get, and the fact that it's still ongoing, that nothing has come of it yet over the last week since Decky is gone. This is the Bows job. You should be wanting to take this straight away, if you wanted it. And the fact that still hasn't materialised yet, if I was a Bows fan, I'd probably wanting to look elsewhere. So that leaves countless others, Raf, and you could just put your name into a hat here, and pull one out. And I think that's the disappointing thing if I was a Bows fan, that there's no standout candidate that as a Bows fan you'd be excited about, and I could throw names that out there that could have an opportunity of getting the job, but it'd be a waste of time because I've no clue who that manager could be, but I'd like to think that Bows have some sort of idea who it is at this time. Yeah,
but also on the north side of the Liffey, the Shelbourne train keeps kind of rolling station to station, and nobody seems to be able to stop them at the moment, Keith. And Will Jarvis, couple of brilliant goals. I know in the commentary, and you might talk us through it, there was Freeman wasn't really closing down the 2 goals that he scored from a Pat's perspective, but Shells have this little bit of a cutting edge, and they just seem to be on a bit of a roll.
Yeah, I was really impressed with Shells. I've always spoke about how hard they work, the 5 at the back, the recovery runs. They don't really mess around with the ball in midfield. There's very few sidewards and backwards passes, but with the likes of Liam Bort, Matty Smith, Sean Boyd is a brilliant player at this level, because Shelbourne will drop in to be quite defensive. They'll have a lot of bodies behind the ball, but when they win it, they will just give it up to Sean Boyd, and he's so big and so strong that he will just occupy a couple of centre halves, and then he'll lay the ball off to Bort or a Smith or Jarvis as well. Jarvis was excellent, but the one thing that really stood out was Jarvis had a little run at Freeman once or twice, and he left him for dead in the first 10 minutes, and you could see all of a sudden Freeman thought, I don't fancy getting involved in this. He was getting absolutely no help from his winger whatsoever. He was being left on 1v1, and Joe Redmond sort of realised the situation and thought, okay, I'll come across him. If he does deal you down the line, I'll be here. But Freeman, he just got his wrist slapped once or twice, and he was so standoffish then. Freeman, actually, the first goal he scored, he had a chance like that in the first half where Freeman was 2 or 3 yards off him, and he just shot straight away, and it went just wide. So he did get a warning sign that you're going to have to get closer here. And Conan will know, being an ex-player, if you're coming into the box, if I'm a left-footed player, if I want to shoot with my left foot, if you don't want to get the distances too tight because I might go down the line, you can stay down the line of the shot. So although you can be 2 or 3 yards off me, but you can get yourself in the way of the shot. Freeman doesn't do that. He stays out of the line of the shot and stands off, which is just, at this level, you're going to get hurt. And Jarvis done really, really well. He didn't overcomplicate it whatsoever. If you're going to stand off me, I'll just put the ball in the back of the net. If you're going to come tight to me, I'm going to run past you. And I was really, really impressed with Jarvis. His 2 goals were really, really good. Liam Bort was brilliant. Every time he got the ball, he received it on his back foot and just seemed to get away from the St. Pat's midfield. And again, looking from I was asked, O'Shane asked me after the game, can Shelbourne win the league? And look, it's a loaded question, but with Europe coming in to Shelbourne and the squad, that starting 11 for Shelbourne is really, really solid. But you start taking 1 or 2 out there with the amount of games that you will have to play and with the intensity that Duff makes them play. You think they lose a couple of games here or there, but unbelievable stuff. And even Damien Duff, the way he speaks in the media, yeah, we're top of the league, woohoo, after 13 points. I spoke to him before the game and he just seems really, really relaxed. And, at this level, the fittest team, even in the Premier League, we were over in England, the fittest team is generally in and around the best team. And Shelbourne, for me, are one of the fittest teams in the league. For me, they just run. And don't get this diluted, Raf, because they're not just a running machine. They have an awful lot of talent in their 11, but they do it at the right times. They won't take the ball down in their own 18-yard box and start trying to play football. They will do it down your end. And when they press really, really well. I try to tell the lads at Pats all the time, the under-17s, that if you press properly, you'll get yourself chances. All you have to do is press properly. And Shelbourne are really, really good at it. So they can create chances off their own back through nice little intricate football. They can go along to Sean Boyd and do second balls, or they can just outfight you. They have a little bit of everything, but I just think winning the league, this is their second full season in the league. They're in Europe this year. I just think it's too big of an ask for them, but Shelbourne must be over the moon with how they're going and how Damien Duff is going about it.
Yeah, and Pats, on the other hand, Conan, is very, very inconsistent. So very up, very down. And again, that was a setback there.
Yeah, look, I think watching them over the last number of weeks, I think Jamie Lennon gets exposed as he can't do both. He can't stop the ball into the striker's feet. So let's say against Derry, it was Hooban. On Friday, it was Sean Boyd. And Matty Smith then is just so clever as a 10 or as that midfield player that he can find pockets of space when Lennon is occupied, and the other Pats players in midfield are naive not to go with him. Not disciplined enough could be a term used as well. And it was that's the thing that I noticed. Like you see for the second goal, getting Boyd into feet, and then the amount of space that he had to lay the ball out to Jarvis on the left hand side. I couldn't believe that Freeman stayed on the pitch, if I'm being totally honest. Like Keith said, he the first half, I think it was the 30th minute, ball came inside, about 5 yards off, curled it just wide. Like 1 minute into the second half, it happens again. Goal. So straight away, I think that something has to be done in that position, because Jarvis is just getting complete joy, whether it's, and that happens in games. I'm not saying Freeman's a poor player. It's just come up against someone that is better or stronger than him. And the second goal was carbon copy. It was unbelievable, Raf, being completely honest. But in terms of Pats' play, I still think it's very disjointed. Keating can get isolated at times. Didn't look like scoring the other night. No real chances, and that's worrying as a striker that you're not getting those chances. Even against Derry, I know he scored, but it was a poor back pass that let him in, and it was an unbelievable strike. So that's something that would worry me a little bit in terms of the chances that Pats are creating. And yeah, his work will be cut out to try and get it right over the next couple of weeks, because I don't think with Shamrock Rovers winning, that's the monkey off their back. They're going to keep going now, and I don't see where Pats are going to get those the opportunities to slip up much more.
Yeah.
Sorry, Raf, I think what Conan is saying is absolutely spot on, because Rory Keating has a couple of goals this season, but he's not exactly missing chances. You know, sometimes when strikers are missing chances, you say, well, he's getting into the position and he's missing them, they will come. The goal against Derry was a bad back pass. It's a brilliant finish from him, but didn't really have any chances in the game. He was fairly isolated. Then he scored the following week again, and again, he didn't have a whole host of chances. He's sort of living off scraps up there. He does look isolated at times. Brandon Kavanagh is trying to get closer to him. McLennan is trying to get closer to him. But when the ball goes up and he's 2 or 3 centre-halves just swamping him, it's so hard to keep it. Look, Sean Boyd does it really, really well. But Sean Boyd, what Shelbourne do is when that ball goes, they have people there. They eat up the ground so quickly. And Sean Boyd, even if he's not going to win the ball, he makes sure the defender doesn't get a clean header. So he's heading it down into an area that's a 50-50 area. So Pats have an awful lot to improve on. The boxing midfield for me, yes, I can see I see the merits of it. I can see why people would be attracted to it. I see why you want to play it. But being an ex-winger for me, with the likes of Jake Mulroney who come off the bench and scored, I think he used wit. I think wit is Pat's friend, and Pats should always play with wingers for me. I think wingers are the way to hurt people. Modern football, they do. So many teams now will defend the width of the 18-yard box. They'll give you the channels. You want to go out to the channels, they'll give you that. They won't come out and fight you out there. So get the ball out there and go and hurt them. It's really, really simple stuff for me. Forcing it through the middle, it's eye the needle stuff. And if you lose it, you're really exposed at the back.
Yeah, and one thing before we turn to a couple of the other games, Damien Duff was mentioned after the game that his fitness coach, Mauro Martins, was racially abused by someone in the crowd during the warm-up. So he was talking to John Kenny about that, and here's that clip.
Like I said, at Newcastle, I probably got abuse off my own fans, but here, yeah, sometimes you have to bite your tongue. Last week, my mum, my dad and my brothers are getting abused, and tonight, Mauro, our fitness coach, not one of the best in the league, one of the best in the world, he's from Portugal, he got racially abused. So that's why it's a special night as well, not for the club really, but for him. So yeah, that's all I'll say in the matter. I'll leave it up to whoever the relevant people are. So it was, I don't know who you have to speak to in this country, but at the end of the day, in a strange way, I thank the fans because it gave us an extra incentive to go and do for Mauro, because we're a family, we're not a squad, we're not a football club, we're a family, and the lads were desperate to go get the win for Mauro.
Well, it's something the league have been obviously very seriously about racism in the game as well, but it clearly has been said as well, so obviously there's something the club should be looking to correct or to at least report.
Yeah, here, I don't know who takes it over now. Yeah, something's been said, there'll obviously be no proof, it'll get brushed under the carpet, so here, you asked me about do I take the abuse. Yeah, here, family and all, but sometimes it can go a bit too far.
All right, so that is Shelbourne manager Damien Duff there speaking to John Kenny. Now, Dundalk and Waterford couldn't be separated, Keith, and this was, when we were discussing the Dundalk last week, it was in and around a lot of the issues that they've been having. They're planted right at the bottom, but in a way, this at least stems that flow of defeats. And I suppose on the flip side as well for Waterford, this is their first clean sheet of the season as well. Sam Sargent had a really good game and goal for them.
Yeah, Sam Sargent was really good, and again, I think it's hard to say. Obviously, people are still jostling for positions. People are saying to me after the first round of fixtures, you start to get a feel for the league where people are going to be. But yeah, I look at the Dundalk team. I like Scott Hoy. There's an awful lot of boys that are coming into the Dundalk team. Last week when he played Pats, and I was asking Adrian and Taff, I didn't know a lot of them that were coming in. They were coming in quite cold, so there's a lot of question marks over the Dundalk players at the minute, but I look at them and I think the way they played against Pats wasn't great. They haven't started well. The manager, Stephen O'Donnell, is last season when things didn't go well with Dundalk, he threw the character into question. People are questioning our character. That's already been thrown out. We're only in the 6th or 7th game and he's already questioning the character of his players, which is not where you want to be as a manager so early on. But Dundalk have enough. But they just haven't been clicking, and I don't know whether it's an overcomplicated tactical approach or what exactly is not working, but it just hasn't been great. Look, Waterford are a decent team. I think Dundalk, as you said, Raf, would say we'll take the draw and we'll try and build on that from there because the performances haven't been great. So Dundalk will be happy with the point. They'll be happy with that. And Waterford, from their point of view, yeah, away from home, clean sheet, didn't get beat, and look absolutely fine in the league. And again, I know my mind just keeps going to this because the top of the league, for me, I think Shamrock Rovers will be okay. They will go on to win it. But I look down the bottom and Waterford, Dundalk. You just haven't a clue who it's going to be, really. It's crazy. I think it could be, people are tipping Sligo, Drogheda. It could be a Dundalk, it could be a Pats or somebody down there. It could be somebody really left field, but you don't want to be lingering around the bottom of that league too long, because people say winning is a habit, losing becomes a habit really, really quickly as well, and that's not something you want going through your football club. So Dundalk they'll have to get on the horse pretty quickly.
Yeah, and things, Conan, are looking fairly optimistic for Sligo now, especially Max Mata back. I know Waweru's back heel is probably the thing that gets a lot of attention, but the 2 goals before that were really what was the winning of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think from the game, when it got back to 2-1, Raf, last year, Sligo Rovers don't win that game. And I think that's the grit and determination that they have now, and the quality of signings that they've made. Excuse me. I think Niall Morahan has stepped up to the plate this year. He's been given the captain's armband by John Russell after Greg has left, and I think he's taken over the mantle that Greg Bulger had in that team in terms of having to make that step up and leading by example. And I thought he was magnificent in Saturday. Thought he was very good. Max Mata obviously back scoring goals at Sligo. That was needed after last season. They didn't have a goal scorer that could do that. Chapman has come in, done really well. Hartman is doing fantastically well. But at the end, they have 2 international players in Nando Poinaker and Max Mata anyway. So even those 2 players should bring the squad forward. And Max Mata with the goals and Poinaker at the back alongside Oliver Denham, who was brilliant. Reece Hutchison at left back, probably one of the best in the league. I think he's very underrated. Thought he was excellent as well. But in terms of that performance and going 2 goals up, conceding to that Andrew Quinn goal early in the second half, it was very important for Sligo then to stay in front, and they managed the game really well compared to what they have been doing last season. So credit to John Russell for the signings that he's made, and a very good start for them this season.
Yeah, and that leaves Drogheda on 4 points, second from bottom, and then Dundalk below them 2 points further back. So it's 2 Louth clubs occupying the automatic relegation place and then the playoff place as well. Now in the first division, UCD got back to winning ways, 3-0 winners over Athlone. Finn Harps won 2-1 away at Wexford, and it's been a decent enough start for Finn Harps so far. And then Kerry and Cove shared the points, 1-1 there at Mount Hawk Park, and then Cork City top the table at the moment, 2-0 winners over Bray Wanderers. And Longford Town against Treaty United was postponed after the pitch failed an inspection following heavy rainfall. In Longford, it means they've had a very convoluted start to the season. So many games have been called off at the moment, so they're going to have a bit of a catching up period to do. But in terms of other parts of the division, Conan, I mean, Cathal O'Sullivan, he scored a goal there for Cork City. He's only turned 17 earlier this month, and you sometimes you start feeling old when you look at the date of birth or the year of birth and you see 2007 and like I did the Leaving Cert a year before that, and then you're looking at a young lad already scoring a brilliant goal for Cork.
Absolutely, and it was a wonderful goal as well. And credit to Tim Clancy for giving them the opportunity of starting the game, and he grabbed it with both hands. It was a fantastic finish. It was the second goal. They went 2-0 up after 15 minutes. Sean Murray, the former Dundalk player, got the first goal. He spent some time up north with Glentoran. So that was a great coup to get him down at Turner's Cross. And they started really well. They've got 13 points out of 15. Probably you're expecting that from Cork City. You're expecting them to come straight back up. And I suppose the Premier Division without Cork City isn't a real Premier Division, if you'd ask me. So it's a great start for them, but there's still a long way to go. You mentioned Finn Harps. They come from behind to win 2-1 down in Ferry Carrig, and who Wexford weren't doing too bad. And 10 points from 15 from them. Really good start. They have a home tie against Kerry next weekend, and they'll be expecting to take 3 points there. So a great start for Finn Harps too. I suppose the disappointing one for me so far would definitely be UCD. You're always expecting UCD to be at the higher end of the table. Now they do sit in fourth, but they're 7 points already off Cork City and 4 points off Treaty and Finn Harps. So I was expecting more from UCD, if I'm being completely honest. But an entertaining first division, but definitely. And Longford have, as you said, a lot of catching up to do.
Yeah, and then the Women's Premier Division, so second round of action. Galway United, second win of the season, 5-0 winners over Cork City. And Julianne Russell scored a hat-trick. Now she's a winner of more than 50 caps for Ireland back in the day, so that's a kind of memorable enough day for her there. Shelbourne were 2-0 winners away at Peamount, so that was a huge game there. And Shell's getting their first win of the season and just going a point above Peamount. And then Treaty United, who this is their first game of the season, just with every club will have a bye week at some stage. That's 2-0 winners over DLR Waves. And Maeve de Burka on this podcast a couple of weeks ago, she tipped them to actually start going well this season after some difficult seasons since coming into the league. And then Shamrock Rovers still waiting for first win of the season, as are Wexford, after they drew 1-1 with each other. And then Athlone Town were 1-0 winners away at Bowes. And also the fixtures for the All-Ireland Cup were confirmed last week, with the first round of group games taking place on Saturday 23rd of March and Sunday 24th of March as well. And once again, it'll be the 11 Women's Premier Division clubs and then 5 from the Northern Irish League as well. And very early days on the table, Galway United top on 6 points, and then Shells on 4, and then Treaty and Bowes and Peamount and Athlone all on 3 points at this very early juncture. But we're going to turn our attentions to what's happening elsewhere. The Champions League draw took place on Friday for the quarterfinals and also for the pathway for the semi-finals. And looking at it, we have Arsenal, Bayern, Atletico Madrid against Dortmund, Real Madrid against City, PSG against Barcelona. Keith, the one takeaway is one side of that draw is very, very lopsided, as the Atletico Madrid, Dortmund, or PSG, Barcelona, they're all on one side, and then you have Real, City, Arsenal, Bayern on the other. So we're going to get probably like what we had last year, one surprise finalist, which was Inter Milan, that on that occasion, and it could be any one of those. I mean, it's a bit weird saying Barcelona are a surprise club, given when you think back of what they were like a few years ago, but that's where they are right now.
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on. I think there's a hard side and an easy side to this draw. But look, I've seen Atletico Madrid and Dortmund during the week, and I don't think either of them are going to be the winners of the Champions League. PSG could cause a lot of problems with the attack they have. Obviously, the pace of Mbappe, but Barcelona's defence for me, I don't think is strong enough to go and win the Champions League. But the mouth-watering one for me is Arsenal and Bayern Munich. I've speaking to an awful lot of Arsenal fans, and we don't have a great history with Bayern Munich. We generally get turned over there fairly easy, so it's going to be a tough game for Arsenal. Obviously, Harry Kane returning as well. I mean, who would bet against him having a final say in the ex-Spurs player coming back to haunt Arsenal? That's going to be a really good game. But look, I'm happy we avoided Real Madrid. I am happy we avoided Man City. It could have been easier, you know. An Atletico, even a Barcelona, and again, saying it could have been easier with a Barcelona. I understand Barcelona are a very good team, but they've a lot of injuries as well. They're missing a lot of midfield players. Gavi, Pedri both missed the last game. De Jong is out as well. So Barcelona are under strength, and the defence isn't great. But yeah, the Arsenal Bayern Munich game is going to be really, really good. Musial is a player I really like. Leroy Sané, all the ability in the world. And the Real Madrid Man City game is going to be a great game. Jude Bellingham, in my opinion, is the best player in the world right now. Can do a little bit of everything. Vinicius Junior, the pace of him. I'm sure we'll probably see a race between Vinicius Junior and Kyle Walker at some point, which is, you know, you pay your entrance fee alone just to see that, them two boys having a leg race. So it could be anybody, Raf. And like I say, I do think if Arsenal could somehow get to the final, if Man City get knocked out and they somehow get past Bayern Munich and maybe somehow turn over Real Madrid, you'd fancy them in a final, but it's a very, very tough path to get to the final, I have to say. Bayern Munich and then either Real Madrid or Man City for an Arsenal, very, very, very tough. But to be putting building blocks in place to be into a semi-final of the Champions League, a quarter-finals of a Champions League, it's really, really good stuff. We're still in the Premier League race. I don't believe we're going to win either of them, but I'm happy with me lot. And that's not to say I'm not ambitious and I don't want the club to do more. But, you know, we're fairly new at all this and we're putting building blocks in place. Manchester City have been at the pinnacle now for probably 5, 6, 7 years. So to think that we can just come in and compete with the Europe's elite straight away, we can. In one-off games, we can compete. But I think over 2 legs, having to go to Munich, maybe having to go to Madrid in the next game, I see it becoming difficult for Arsenal. But very, very happy with what I've got, I have to say. Really happy. And if we can bring the Premier League to the wire, give us an entertaining game in the 2 legs in the Champions League, I don't think you'll hear too many Arsenal fans complaining.
Yeah, and Conan, just on the City Real Madrid tie, because of course the semi-final decisively went to City the last time, last season on their way to getting to the final. But Real Madrid, as Keith has said, they've Jude Bellingham in there. The one thing they're probably missing is a centre forward since Benzema decided to go off to Saudi Arabia. That's a bit of a hole they haven't filled. It probably will be filled by Mbappe, but not until the summer. So it's a mouth-watering tie one way or the other. But I don't know which way at this stage where you think it's going to be swinging.
I think it's going to be Man City, Raf, and I think the winner comes from that tie. So I'm obviously calling Man City as the winners already. I know with Real Madrid, they are missing that number 9. Rodrigo has done all right, I suppose, in that position. Joselu has come in as well. And then there's others in around as well. Brahim Diaz has done okay. Vinicius comes in from that left-hand side and scores countless goals. I think he got a brace at the weekend as well. So, yeah, it's the game that I'm looking forward to the most. I think Arsenal-Bayern will have goals. I was very disappointed with Arsenal in the quarterfinal, particularly their attacking threat. I thought Saka wasn't great in both legs. I think Wendell had him in control the whole 180 minutes and more because it went extra time. But in terms of the Real Man City game, Man City just looks so comfortable at the moment. Even when they concede like they did against Manchester United, we're so comfortable in possession. Their attacking threat is good. They have Rodri sitting in front of the back four. John Stones has been absolutely sensational and completely undervalued and underrated by large portions of the media and what he's doing. I think he's been unbelievable. So yeah, I can't see Man City being beaten. And we were talking about this last season as well, but the drubbing that they gave them in the semi-final, 5-1 on aggregate, that's surely going to be on Real Madrid's heads, and they'll want to come out fighting. But I don't think they'll touch them, if I'm being completely honest. And the other side of the draw, there's no one to fear. Atletico obviously are playing Dortmund. They lost 3-0 to Barcelona last night at home. They did extremely well to win the tie against Inter. Inter were in complete control up to maybe 65th, 70th minute. Depay came on and should have scored, then did score. Great goal. Got forced extra time and got it to penalty. So it was terrific result for them to get through. They might even beat Dortmund to put them into a semi-final. But I think PSG are the strongest on that side of the draw. So then I'm hoping for a Man City PSG final then to whet the appetite, because it'll be some game with the attacking threat of, and Keith is talking about Vinicius against Walker. Imagine Mbappe against Walker.
Yeah, probably won't be one for the purists in terms of the two clubs that'll be involved. But anyway.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
but in terms of purists, it was an FA Cup weekend. Of course, Manchester United and Liverpool, great tradition between them, and Manchester United got the better of them, but it took extra time, 4-3 with Amad Diallo scoring the winner and then subsequently getting sent off, Keith, after taking his jersey off. But it was sort of like, it was a weirdly chaotic game. United start really well. Liverpool then start showing their superiority, and then Rashford has a chance to score a winner right at the very end. You kind of think the chance is gone for them there, especially when Liverpool take the lead in extra time. But I don't know where it came from, but United did find some reserves of energy there.
Yeah, I was impressed with them again. Not a 90-minute performance. They started really well, went 1-0 up, and then Liverpool had a large period where they were on top, and then United started throwing a few punches all of a sudden. Yeah, really, really good. It was a brilliant FA Cup tie, and United fans are coming to me going, "We've turned over Liverpool," and I was thinking that game for United was a must win. I think if United lose that game, their chances of silverware is gone for the whole season, because they're not going to win the Premier League. They're not in any other cup competition. So it was pretty much a must win for me. And Liverpool, they're fighting in Europe. They're fighting in the Premier League. They've an awful lot in their minds. I think no Liverpool fan would say, "Don't worry about that. It's okay to lose because it's Manchester United." But I think it softens the blow a little bit for Liverpool, the fact that they're still fighting on so many fronts. And I wanted to raise something. The Diallo sending off for me. I know letter of the law, it's the right thing to do because he takes off his jersey and it's the second yellow card. But I was doing the commentary on West Ham and Aston Villa, and in the last minute of the game, Zaniolo kicks the ball away. Now he doesn't boot at 90 yards, but it's just a little 10-yard kick. that's a box standard yellow card these days. But the referee, in the height of the game, there was a little bit of needle towards the end of it. The referee decided, I'm going to use my common sense here, and I'm not going to send him off because it's not the worst thing in the world he's done. So he just decided, I won't give him the yellow. Amad Diallo scores his first goal for Manchester United in this last minute of the second half of extra time against our biggest rivals, Liverpool, and he takes off his jersey. The referee decides to send him off. I don't understand it, Raf. I really don't. Who is he offended? What's so bad that he's done? He didn't have a slogan on his thing. He wasn't trying to sell anything with a sponsorship. There was absolutely nothing there. So the referee, for me, should have went over and had a word with him and said, look, young man, you're very, very lucky, but I'm going to leave you on the pitch. If that happens again, I will have to send you off. The fact that he's done it it's nonsensical. That's the best moment of that young lad's life. The sacrifices, moving to the country, everything he's done for that one moment, and the referee decides to send him off. So he should have went to bed that night with a smile from ear to ear. Yet he'd be thinking, is the manager going to have a go at me tomorrow morning when I go in? Which way does the land lie? I'm after being sent off. Awful, awful, awful decision from the referee. Use a bit of common sense. I don't think, would anybody be here saying Diallo should have been sent off? I really don't think so, Rafa. A little bit of common sense goes a long way, and the referee will hide behind the letter of the law and say, I had to do it. Well, what I always ask for is consistency. The other referee, I know it was a Premier League game and an FA Cup game, but one's a box standard yellow card, and so is the other. But the referee uses common sense in one and not in the other. And it's as an ex-player, it's the sort of thing that really grates on me, and especially when it's a young lad who, you know, we're all going to turn into robots here. You know, you score a goal, you have to wait on VAR. Now you're getting told you have to curb your celebrations because you might be offending somebody. You might have to get a yellow card. We're all going to turn into robots soon enough, Rafa. It's crazy. The emotion is being taken out of celebrations from me. It's nonsensical, stupid stuff from the referee.
Yeah. I don't think the referee Keith has a decision to make there, because we've seen countless times in European games, international games, where lads have taken off their jerseys and the referee is reluctantly talking to them and saying, there's nothing that I can do here, because the referee will get reprimanded if he doesn't give the yellow card. Now, I understand what you're saying about kicking the ball away. I think the referee has a bit of leeway there, in the sense that, look, I can go in and say it wasn't that bad. The ball came back straight away and the game was able to keep going. But it is the letter of the law in terms of, if you take off your jersey, it is a yellow card. And if the referee, I completely understand, I completely get you, but I don't think we can lay blame at the referee, because because it is a yellow card that if you take off your jersey, that's it. And if he doesn't give it, it's the referee that's going to get in trouble.
So is the referee that managed the Aston Villa and West Ham game, is he going to be given out because he didn't give the second yellow card to Zaniolo?
No, my point is that he might just ask him, why didn't you give the yellow card there? And the referee will be able to give a logical reason to say, well, the ball came back to me quick and he was able to get on with the game. Or he could say, I didn't think it was as kick a ball away as further as deserved the yellow card, if you know what I mean. So that's the difference between the two decisions. And you're right, I completely agree with you that Amad scores a goal in the last minute. First goal for Man United, knocked Liverpool, their biggest rivals, out of the FA Cup. He should be able to celebrate. He's not. But at the end of the day, it's the law has to change if that's the case, not the referee.
Yeah, but I just don't understand it. I really don't understand it. The referee uses common sense in one, and he won't be given out to. He won't be reprimanded. Nobody's going to want to have a word with him. The referee feels like he can't do anything in the other game, and I understand the laws of the game, but common sense goes a long, long way in the game. And you know, sometimes the rules are wrong. The rules are just wrong. And if you were going to send the boy off for scoring his first goal, he didn't throw it into the crowd. The game didn't get delayed for 20 minutes. There was nothing that bad. He could have easily got away with that. And, you know, for me, that's just the ref saying, I'm going to do everything by the letter of the law, and that's it. If you do everything by the letter of the law, you're going to give about 4 or 5 red cards a game. You're going to be giving penalties left, right and centre. And the game's going to be a horrible spectacle. So for me, common sense. Use a bit of common sense, lads. That's all we want. And consistency across the board.
Yeah, and before we go, just on the, I suppose the outcome of that game, Conan. I know it's a one-off match. It's it's just an FA Cup quarter-final in a sense. United will feel that they have a good chance of getting to a final, given that they've been drawn against Coventry, and then from Liverpool's point of view, they just have to get back on the horse after the international break, and 10 games to try and win the league, and also potentially try and get to Europa League final. what effect do you think the result has on either team, or is it fairly is the effect bigger for United than it is the downside for Liverpool?
Yeah, I think so. What I took out of it when I was watching the game yesterday was the reaction of the Manchester United players towards Anthony after the game. They were all going to him. And now I'm sure that he's taken a lot of flack. He has been taking a lot of flack from fans, from opposition fans, from media about his performances, which haven't been up to scratch. So I am very interested to see how he gets on over the next couple of weeks in a Manchester United shirt, whether it kind of gives him a new lease of life, because he played really well when he came on, got the goal, and was a threat in extra time as well. So that's something that I would take from a Manchester United perspective to see how he does. Yes, they have a wonderful opportunity now to get to an FA Cup final. Obviously missing Amad Diallo for it after his sending off. And yeah, I think it's a wonderful opportunity for them to go and win something. The other side of the coin is that it's probably going to be a all Manchester final. And you don't want an obliteration in the final either with how Manchester City are playing at the moment. So I think Erik ten Hag will have his work cut out for that not to happen. And an opportunity for Manchester United to get some silverware. Flip the coin on Liverpool. I don't think it makes a huge difference to their season. They're in a title race. I think with Klopp and his staff will get them fully focused on what lies ahead. And in terms of Europa League final, perhaps to get into as well. So yeah, it all I don't think it affects Liverpool. It was a very disappointing performance from the yesterday in extra time. I thought they should have saw the game out before Anthony's goal. They had plenty of opportunities to get that third. They didn't take it. So it'll certainly be a disappointing week in the camp, but I don't think it's going to affect them too much. And they probably wouldn't like an international fixture to get back on the horse and play a game as soon as possible. That's what you want as a footballer. If you lose a game in such agonising fashion, you do want to get back onto the pitch and play as soon as possible. So to have that wait for a week or two isn't ideal, but the break could do them good too.
Yeah, and as I said, international break, Ireland playing Belgium on Saturday and then Switzerland next Tuesday. And then the under-21s are this Friday, live on RTÉ News Channel and the RTÉ Player from 4:55 p.m. And for this podcast, we'll be back next Wednesday, not Monday. So we're going to be reviewing both games as opposed to, reviewing one and then sort of looking forward to the next. So we'll be able to get a good overview of both games. But Keith and Conan, thanks very much for your time this week and enjoy the rest of your bank holiday.
You too, Raf.